the SMEs and looking at what are the strategies that they need to adopt, especially in the very harsh business environment. Well, that is what we'll be having a conversation about this evening. And my guest who will be, weighing in on this conversation is Dr. Kenechuckwu Nnamani. He is the founder of ZSHIP. Good evening and welcome to Business Hub.
Good evening, Joy.
Great, great. So, Lagos, you as well can be a part of Business Hub today. Well, you have questions you want to find out on how you can wade through the waters? Well, come through, drop your questions for me. Well, I won't be answering them. Dr. Kenechuckwu will be, dealing with those questions on 0809 4440981. And part of what we'll be talking about is transitioning. And I'm talking about transitioning, well, when exactly, how it is you were trying to leave one thing to another, when exactly is it time to call it quits on a particular business and then transition to another one? It's usually a question people ask, and they find it a bit difficult on how to deal with. But our guest today will be talking about that, especially as an entrepreneur who is starting out business and you've tried this one, you're thinking, okay, this one did not work. Let me try another one. It's like this business is not meant for me, or let me enter another one. And you keep trying out all the markets or trying out all the business out there. Well, that and more are what we'll be talking about this evening. So, before we get talking further, I'd like you to tell us your business. Tell us your story on your Nigerian business environment and how that has, made you close up some shop at some point in time.
Um, Thank you, Joy. So basically, I should know already, we started off with LPG. Everything we tried to do around LPG was kind of like tech driven. So we
Okay.
were more of trying to get, cooking gas to people's doorstep. And then we
Yeah.
invested heavily in skid clusters. So
Ooh.
typically we had locations in Lagos, in
Mhm.
Enugu, in Abuja, and we had one set up in Kaduna. So, but basically what we were doing is for each city, we had some form of LPG skid cluster where we can
Okay.
serve people when they make requests from their mobile app. Now, and at some point, we scaled up and then we started LPG reticulation. So
Okay.
we had mass housing projects where we would typically set up the underground gas reticulation system. We had
Oh, nice.
we were called Niger Gas. I mean, we're still Niger Gas. I mean, the platform is still there, but we're just like we closed shop. So we
Yes.
we had our meters. So when we reticulate mass housing projects on the ground
Okay.
piping, we would install the meters, and then the meter APIs will be connected to the mobile apps for people to be able to pay their gas bills.
Okay.
So that was working, but the challenge with that was we were faced with a whole lot of developers requesting for us to bring in external investors to invest in reticulation itself because they felt like the investment was too much for them to handle, and ROI on that investment was huge. Was going to take a very long time.
Okay.
Um, so we did two. No, we did about four projects in
Okay.
Abuja,
Mm-hmm.
and after that, we were like, this is not sustainable. If we have to
Ooh.
keep moving, maybe once every 6 months, we're able to get one project, someone who is able to invest in that and run it by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then how do we pay these engineers that we have to keep on
Ooh.
standby, waiting for them to serve?
Right.
Then we have bobtails that those bobtails were meant to be used for refilling the LPG storage facility for the reticulated
Okay.
project. So it was a lot.
Ooh.
Now,
I can
and
only imagine.
don't forget, this whole process was all bootstrapped. There was no external investment. So it was basically from savings, family and friends' money, and so on and
I
so forth. But
know.
at some point, the federal government had this whole, initiative. They were pushing a lot for people to, convert your cars. That's under President Buhari.
Okay.
So we were like, you know what? since
This is a way to go.
since we're already in the space, the federal government is coming in, then this is a
Right.
great time for us to, it's still the same industry. This is a great time for us to scale up and
I know,
have something
right?
a bit more sustainable. So our revenue can be can also improve and be steady.
Right.
Now we invested, I actually bought a site close to
Okay.
University of Abuja. We set
Okay.
up, we were ready, we had meetings.
Hmm.
In fact, we were promised a couple of cars to convert for federal government. The,
Okay.
the project made sense. I traveled to Turkey. I got a technical partner, and then
Okay.
I went to Lithuania, and I also got a
Right.
technical partner there because those two
Hmm.
countries are very good with CNG conversions and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I brought the one from Turkey down to Nigeria to see our site. He also advised. He was ready to train, but the
Okay.
problem is at the end, the cost of converting one car as at then was somewhere around 280,000 naira.
Okay. Not so horrible
No,
compared
yeah,
to
but
the
no, 280,000 naira then was actually horrible compared to now. If you talk about value of money, as at then
I
280K
can I
was
can imagine.
expensive.
Yes, it was actually a lot to think through, but
So
yeah.
what I ended up doing was I converted my trucks, that the
Okay.
vans that we had in the company for, I mean, show of concept. Then
Hmm.
we did a few more conversions for people who wanted to pay like with payment plan model.
Hmm.
Then we were now chasing the big fish, which is meant to be what is going to help us to now, get into the market. And
Right.
nothing is one government problem to the other, one office to the other. And to be
All the
honest,
bottlenecks that you can
and
imagine.
and to be honest, I had to close shop because LPG was
Mm.
also very unstable. The clusters, we would buy a truck of maybe of LPG for 11 million. By the time we are going back to buy another truck again to distribute to our clusters, we are buying
Mhm.
for 14 million. The next time
Ooh,
again is maybe 14.5. So it was just
the
a lot.
cost was
It
well
was a
going to
lot
the roof.
because you can't project because that industry has a lot of gatekeepers. So those
Okay.
gatekeepers, they have a way of just making the market difficult for people who want to come in with innovation. So you realize that
Mm.
you only make money if you sell the old school way, you know.
I see what you mean.
So it wasn't
Uh,
sustainable. So we had to close shop.
Oof, oof. Can you imagine when put your best foot forward, put all those monies and made the investments, and then it now comes out looking as if, why did I even put my money in this thing in the first place? Start having all those questions. Well, it's good to have you come through and share all that insight. But now that you've been through that, right? When it's time, when is actually the right when it's actually the right time for you to see, as I say, the writing on the wall and then step back from that business as an entrepreneur that has gone through all that? When did you know it was over? Or when can you tell that, give us insight to, know when we should throw in the towel, literally, and not continue sinking money into the ship that's drowning?
I mean, I'm sure every business owner has some form of business plan. I mean,
Mm.
they have like quarter projections. Typically, what I did for myself, which
Mhm.
I believe every other person would replicate, is understanding what your projections are for the next 3 or 6 months. Now, and if you
Mm.
see a trend for things not to add up, then it's a sign that it's either you're throwing in or you're throwing out.
Okay.
So for some businesses, it depends on the model of business. Like for mine, which was LPG as at that time, we were seeing that it was difficult for us to really move up to the level we wanted to move up because for whatever we plan for the next 6 months, it never comes
Mhm.
out the same way. So if we say that
Mm.
our ROI for the next 6 months was going to be 100 million, by the
Mhm.
time we're done, we're probably going to be seeing that 100 million. But then, based on the markup that we have on that, quantity of product that we must have sold, you
Right.
realize that you're almost running a business to pay salary, for expenses, for
Yeah.
car repairs, for paying electricity bills, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, for me as a business person that wants to see what I'm investing in makes sense, it
Mm.
was the right time for me to pull out.
All right. So, but in your own thoughts, right? You know how it is, people get all sentimental. This is my baby project. I started this with all my hard-earned funds. I have a project that I was looking at, and I'm hoping that it can still work. Let me just try. You know, all that sentiment attached to it. At what
Every
point in
every business owner in Nigeria always has
is
that
that way,
sentiment,
right?
because even when we close shop, we should have closed shop like maybe three months before that time.
Oh,
Because if you think about the fact that you invest emotions, you
right.
you go for interviews, I mean the CSR under that project, you
Mm-hmm.
meet people. This is what people know you for. This is what people believe is going to work out, but they don't know what is
Right.
happening behind the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people get stoked into trying to make it work. And sometimes it's not even because it's their passion. It's not even because it's their baby project anymore. Sometimes
Right.
it's now they want to prove a point.
You
And then
know?
for how long do you want to lose that much money? You know, the
Okay.
the the advantage I had was that I actually had good assets. And with time, the assets were appreciating because we had skid clusters. And I remember when we bought those tanks. We had 2.5 ton tanks for all the skids, and then we bought it for around 1.2 million when the skid tanks were really cheap. When we were selling each skid tank, it was around 3.8 million, and that is without the
Okay. But
dispenser.
now,
So
oh,
we sold off those skid tanks, and we did not lose money.
great.
So it really depends on the industry. Sometimes you might close shop and it's a total loss. Sometimes you can
Right.
close shop and the assets you
You
already
still have
have
certain things,
somehow
yeah,
appreciated. So you
to
can
make sense of it.
diversify and move it to
All right.
another business.
All right. That's actually good to know. It's actually, inside information, especially for the SMEs, knowing when to throw in the towel and, wave the white flag. Okay, I've done my bit, but it's time to call it quits. But
Mhm.
you can share your thoughts this evening with us on Business Hub on 0809 4440981 is the number to share your thoughts this evening. You can also, send in your questions that you have relating how your business is, how have you been surviving, especially as a business owner in this harsh economy. And my guest with me is Dr. Kenechuckwu Nnamani, and he's been, giving us more insights. Yes, he's more or less shared how he started, the things he had to face, and so much more. But on the other side of this quick breather, I definitely want you to have this at the back of your mind, seeing that gas your regular cooking gas right now has more or less tripled. Before we're getting them, that's your regular 12.5 kg.
Mhm.
Before you see at 8,000, 9,000. Now it is
Mhm.
in some areas, you're getting it for 15,500, 16, 17,000. But I want to, pick your brain and figure out, is this business still lucrative, or should people be mindful of that business? On the other side, you definitely will be delving into this. Lagos don't go nowhere. Stay tuned to Smooth 98.1. We are your dynamic, non-interest. Like I said, just a minute and we'll be back in.
Yep, sure.
Ethical prosperity, our project finance, small business facilities, individual savings products, and electronic banking solutions are carefully tailored to provide you with superior banking experience delivered in the most ethical and responsible manner. As Lotus Bank, it is partnership for progress. We share your risks and profit, making it a must-win for all. Open a Lotus Bank account today or use any cashless platforms, ATMs, mobile banking, or internet banking to enjoy seamless transactions. Contact our 24/7 call center. Dial 07000 Lotus Bank, which is 07000 or visit www.lotusbank.com. Lotus Bank. Partner. Progress.
prosper. Smooth 98.1. Oh, something magical. Love music. Love.
All right, it is 33 minutes gone past five, and you are still tuned into Business Hub on Smooth 98.1. And on Business Hub today, well, we are talking about SME strategy transformation, especially in a harsh business environment. And my guest this evening is none other than Dr. Kenechuckwu Nnamani. He is the founder of ZSHIP, and he's been, yes, telling us about his journey through the business world. And yeah, telling you as well, especially the SME, you need to know when to call it quits. Emotional attachment and everything in. You still need to be able to tell when you can, throw in the towel. And you can also join us on YouTube. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos to, see how we look like. Yes, me in my winter gear. But okay, getting back into the conversation. Yeah, before that quick breather, right? I spoke about how expensive now, your regular cooking gas has, well, gone up. And it's now retailing for 17,000, which for the average person who might be earning, because it's not yet a thing, who might be earning 70,000 naira as minimum wage, that aside. So many still consider this business as a lucrative one because you find them in certain nooks and crannies, especially in neighborhoods. You find one guy or two people who are running this kind of business. Do you agree that it's a very lucrative one, or what's your take on it?
Well, it's up to be a lucrative business, but it depends on the capacity at which you're coming to that industry.
Okay.
Like I said, the industry has a whole lot of gatekeepers depending on the city. So I'll give an example with somewhere like Abuja. Abuja has gatekeepers like the AA Ranos, maybe, and a few other countries like that, a few other companies like AYM and so on and so forth. So what you realize is that those guys are offering LPG at cheaper prices. They have good skills. People trust to buy from them as well. So when you go to those roadside skid tanks or maybe the
Mm.
roadside cylinder guys, which I really don't advise because that
Oh,
is
okay.
very, very dangerous. Um, they think they
Okay.
are making money, but if you really look at your numbers, if it's meant to be a proper business, you realize that you're really not making money. But I mean, if it's just for them to stay busy, then that makes sense. But typically, it's not a particular industry I want to play in at the moment, especially if I'm not going to play at the level of being a gatekeeper.
I see what you mean. And indeed, it is something for us to, think things through. It's not just saying, okay, so people are making money out of it right now. So it's a business I need to rush into. It's just like, people who are trying to run into the POS kind of business now,
Mhm.
it's working right now, but how sustainable is it at the end of the day is what you need to be asking yourself. All right,
John,
moving
don't get me
on.
wrong. Hold on, John. Don't get me wrong. When we were actually running this business,
Right.
for every 2.5 ton tank, you can get out somewhere around 200, 180 to 220,000. So for mine, I had 15 of that. So the idea is, are we able to sell out 15 tanks in 3 days? That is where the number comes in. But the problem is that before that 2.5 ton is done, if you were
Mm.
buying gas at maybe 5 naira, maybe you're buying gas next when you return at maybe 7, 8 naira. So you see that projection for 220,000 now becomes somewhere around maybe 120. Now you think about it. How fast can you get a truck to deliver to you? Because we always have transportation issues going on. And then by the
Right.
time you're done, you see a particular skid has to also take care of the expenses of that particular location. Now you're
Right.
talking about the salaries, the generator, the security, because sometimes we face a lot of people coming to steal some of the dispensers or coming to
Mm.
steal the pumps. So it's just a whole lot. Managing that in today's Nigeria, it was really difficult, no matter what the number was. But the number was not sustainable for me to actually keep doing that.
Keep on doing what you were doing. Right. Good to know. But you know what? I just really want to know what could have been done about the business environment to actually keep you going in that business if you actually wanted to keep floating it. I'm just curious, you know? I know you shared your reasons as to why things went the way they went, aside the gatekeepers and the others. If all these things were removed from the business side of things, what would have made you keep going? What would you have done to keep moving in that business environment?
Um, to be honest, anything, I mean, it will be more of government interventions because
Okay.
the major challenge we had with LPG distribution to doorstep and to our skid locations was mostly the price issue. If
Mm.
if government had a model where they had some form of massive storage where a particular storage maybe for a year or for 12 months that can take care of the whole country, maybe the price is fixed for a certain amount of money, then it will make a whole lot of sense. Because
Mm.
when we were still in business, we had a whole lot of people approach to invest. People wanted to start doing franchise with us because we had
Okay.
mobile app. So it was easy for people to get on the mobile app and check the nearest Niger gas skid location close to them. But then we couldn't get to that. We didn't get a chance to get to that because of the price, issue. So if
Yeah.
government has solved that problem, I promise you we would have continued that business, especially the LPG distribution aspect. And we
Mm.
would have, we would have tried to at least be in every neighborhood possible by now.
That indeed is another thing that eventually I'm sure other businesses are hoping would there'll be some headway at the end of the day when it comes to the government's intervention is what I'm talking about. All right, so now that we've moved away from the LPG aspect, I see that we've moved into something else. And yes, I know that you've moved into shipping, and that is where your business name there, ZSHIP, comes into play. Isn't shipping and logistics even more challenging than your regular cooking gas? Because, hey, logistics is not the beautiful thing entirely.
So we're not playing in the local logistics industry at the
Okay.
moment. We're
Okay.
more focused on the international logistics. That
Fair
is
enough.
we can manage that a little bit, but then the local logistic is not as bad as people, tend to think that. Because like you have the whole local air cargo thing going on, so it makes it a little bit easier.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, logistic at the moment, I wouldn't say is a difficult or challenging industry, but
Mm.
if you understand supply chain and how to
Mhm.
manage everything supply chain, then you can play in that industry easily. You just need to build a proper team and then you have it going. Then another good thing about that industry is the fact that it never ends. There's nothing else that is going to be after logistics. Population is going to keep growing. People will still need to move things from one place to the other. And I have good resources for me to actually invest in logistics and see it work. So I had to move into that sector.
Okay. That is actually good to know. Well, interesting, interesting aspect when you look at it, especially that you're not, playing in the local space. Because some people have great things to say about, playing in the local field, but now that you're, dealing internationally, I'm sure it is somewhat better. But for anyone who's looking to get into well, shipping or into logistics arena, how prepared should they be? Is it easy as ABC, or are there hurdles as well that they need to, you know, be getting themselves prepared to get into?
Just to mention, the international logistics from Nigeria still has that bit of local, logistics going on, because
Mm.
we've tried to master the export model, basically. So the same tech-driven process. We are licensed by customs, so it makes it easy for us to actually, render this service, logistic services for people moving shipments from Nigeria to other countries. So
Okay.
we're doing more of the sea freight, we're doing more of the air cargo,
Okay.
and then we have, counterparts that, other partnerships in different countries that, support with customs clearance, especially for shipments going from Nigeria to the UK, to China, to the US, to Canada, to
Mhm.
UAE. But coming down to your second question about how easy it is to get into logistics, um, it needs a lot of cash. It needs a lot of capital.
I
It
like your
needs-
honesty on that angle.
yeah, it needs a lot of capital for you to play in that industry, especially right now. I don't think you can do anything in logistics without having some form of technology, involved. For us, we have
Right.
a mobile app. We've invested heavily in that mobile app. People can
Okay.
actually get on our platform and export from Nigeria, because I know, the whole non-oil promotion thing going on, people
Mhm.
still don't know how to go about it. So what we had to
Mhm.
do is just to figure it out, put
And
it in
make
a
it
mobile
easier
app
for them.
and make it easy for people to do it, while we, behind the scene, we do the dirty work. But then getting a customs license is not difficult, but that's another thing that needs capital for. Then you talk about warehousing. Warehousing needs a whole lot of capital. You talk about powering
Right.
your warehouse, you talk about trucks, delivery vans, you talk about manpower, people, you
Mm.
have logistic officers, you have, operations officers, you have managers, you have customs agents that are that are under your license, that have to do, deal with customs border issues. You also have agents that are going to take care of your packaging aspect, especially if you're exporting.
Right.
You still have people that would deal with NDLEA, quarantine. So
Right. A
it's an
lot to
interesting
deal with.
industry. Yeah, it's an
Okay.
interesting industry. It's a fun industry, but for someone who is scared of having high blood pressure, don't come into logistics. But
What
it's
business
interesting. It's
doesn't have
nice.
its risks? There's no
It's
business
nice.
that
Trust
doesn't
me.
have its risks. So, hey,
I
if
won't say it's risk, but I'll say if you're okay with shouting every day, then, and if it's fun for you to shout every day, then the industry is good for you. But typically, you will talk to people that you would believe they should have sense. They really don't have it. And you have to direct them and say, okay, do it this way. Because for you, the owner of the business, everything
Mhm.
is almost like common sense for you, but you have to transfer that knowledge. So sometimes you forget that these people are coming from different industries
But
and they
okay,
might not know as much. So you
right.
see yourself talking every other time.
Interesting way you put it. But yes, if you do not have the business sense, it just seems like, oh, it's a normal thing. Is it not just to transport from here to there? But if
Mhm.
you're not in your, well, everybody cannot have the same mindset. So you always know how to deal with them. But you see that shouting one, that's going to take a lot. I'm not into shouting. Well, thank
Yeah,
you
leave
so
logistics
much.
for us.
No,
Leave
and
logistics for us. Don't
I'm
come
I'm
in.
definitely leaving it. No, it's not my forte. So I'm definitely leaving it for you to deal with. But thank you so much. It's been an
Great.
interesting conversation this evening. How can people reach out to you on your social media handles? Say they want to ask questions, or hey, even if they've got issues regarding logistics and they need your services, how can they reach out to you on your social media handles?
So our social media is ZSHIP C. So Z Ship SHIPC. That is our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So
All right.
they can reach out to us, and the
You'll
customer
take it up
service
from there.
reps would take it up from there.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Dr. Kenechuckwu Nnamani. I trust you will have yourself a pleasant evening. And
You
sorry,
too, guys.
I know you've been, cleaning off all the sweat, but the sweat is money.
Yeah. No, I told you I was driving, so I can still have a lot going on. We're trying to
Thank
set up
you.
a branch in Enugu.
Okay.
So I've been doing up and down the whole
Yeah.
day.
Well done and keep up the good work. And I'm sure when we
Thank
reach out
you.
to you next time, you'll be more than willing to, give us more insight.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
All right.
Probably I'll be
Thank
in
you.
Lagos.
It would be nicer to have you here in the studio.
Better. So I won't have to sweat.
No, you wouldn't. No, you just be, well suited up like I am.
Yeah.
All
All right.
right. Do
Thank you
have
so much.
yourself a pleasant evening. All right. Take
You
care.
too.